So earlier this week, I know we were talking to you guys on Instagram, Discord, and a couple other platforms, and you guys know that we got some plants, and we were really excited to use them in our upcoming video. But we also wanted to let you guys know that there's other options out there for plants if you don't have access or the money to buy plants at your local aquarium stores. All these plants here were received for absolute free. We got this from a person on Facebook in a local Facebook group for aquarium enthusiasts in our area, and the guy was really nice. He had a very planted tank, and he needed to trim them, so we just contacted him, and prior to that we posted in the Facebook group itself asking if anyone had any trimmings they'd be willing to sell for really cheap or just give away, and we actually got a few people like letting us know that they did. So if you don't have money or you just don't have an aquarium store that has really good plants, look at your local Facebook groups. And that's not to say that you can't find it on Craigslist as well, because you totally can. So check there. And without further ado, I guess we're gonna start planting these in our Ecosphere that we didn't get to last week. We have a piece of bubble wrap here that our cat partially chewed on and popped several pieces of, but this is gonna work great in place of the plastic wrap that we used last video, because the plastic wrap is just really hard to keep in place. It sticks to the glass and pretty much everything else, and my hands and itself, and it makes it hard to maneuver. So I'm just gonna lay this in because it should be a little quicker than the bubble wrap. We'll see if it works. Yeah, it's gonna be great. My lovely assistant is grabbing me a mason jar so we can take this very large container of water and critters and slowly pour it into this without making a huge mess, because I am not coordinated whatsoever. No, let's record you passing it to me again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do it like slowly, like do it really, like make it awesome. I know, we'll act like we're fist bumping, but then I'll be like, oh, and then I'll grab it. Thank you. Okay, maybe we try again.
What do you want?
I don't know, I want you to fist bump me with a purpose.
I'm afraid you.
It's gonna be awesome. Thank you. Worked okay. The water might start looking a little less clear.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's what you expect when you make an Ecosphere, and really you don't want to have no breaking down matter, so I'm going to pour it the rest of the way. So we have our donated plants here. Now we bought some other plants, but I decided not to use them in this tank because they actually get a little bit taller. However, we also have some plants that were locally found at the source that we got the rest of the supplies for this Ecosphere. I'm not sure if we're going to use all of these or just a few. We know from the previous Ecosphere that these plants do get taller, so we're keeping that in mind. And then for floating plants, we decided that we were going to go with some azolla or mosquito fern. The stuff we have, we purchased on eBay, and it was fairly inexpensive, and you get a ton of it. So we have some in there, and then we also have some in our shrimp tank now, but it's definitely, we're not going to use almost any of that quantity. It really won't take that much. So anyway, let's get started. Here we go.
The nice part about having that driftwood in there is that I don't have to try to lower anything into it now that the water level is high enough. It breaks the flow of the water well enough anyways. This one's gonna be hard to pour, so I'm actually gonna pour some into... I didn't spill. I thought I was going to. Ooh. Okay. More. So one thing that I did with this container prior to ever putting anything in it at all is I had filled it with water, and I had marked every time I hit a half gallon and gallon mark. It gave me an idea of how much space I was actually working with inside the container. So if you get a weird, like odd shaped, kind of unique container, maybe a secondhand store or thrift shopping or something like that, if you want to find out exactly how much is in it, you can do that. You can also weigh it, but the easiest way is definitely just take like a half gallon or gallon container and just fill it and mark off every spot. That was Ola. Oh, it's everywhere. I should have cleaned the glass off after I did this, because I'm gonna get water on the glass again. Probably.
Oh no, no!
Did I touch the wall? No.
The plant came up.
Oh, shoot! Just when I thought I had everything good. Now that we have everything set up in the Ecosphere, we're gonna work on the lid. So, we wanted to put a succulent in this lid, and we went out to the store and we got a couple different varieties, but we're not the most experienced with succulents. So we asked our friend Chuck over at Sarascapades if he had some input and advice on really how to set up these succulents the best inside of this container. So we're gonna have him give us that input, and then we're gonna go ahead and work on that.
Hi, my name is Chuck, and I run a channel on landscaping with succulents called Sarascapades. Erica and Travis have an Echeveria pearl bonanberg and a Haworthia of some description. It's probably a Haworthia pumila based on the stubbiness, the thickness of the leaves. But it's still so young, so I could be wrong. If it trails, it might be a Haworthia quartata or a Haworthia reinwardtii. They all look alike, man. I've got here a young pearl bonanberg with me. This is one of my propagations. And the thing about Echeverias is that Echeverias generally prefer having a lot more light, while on the other hand, Haworthias can tolerate less sunlight with more shade compared to the Echeverias. So when working with small containers like the lid of their Ecosphere, the Haworthia would be their best bet. Succulents generally have a shallow root system, so it will work with a lid, but in such cases you will have to be careful with your watering. Make sure to water very sparingly, maybe a couple of spritzes here and there when the soil gets too dry. And this part is very important since the lid where they're going to place a Haworthia has no drainage holes. As a general rule, succulents require a good amount of light, ventilation, and drainage. Without enough sunlight, they will start stretching towards the light and they would lose their lovely compact form. They also do not like having wet feet, and too much humidity will lead to rot. This also varies across genera. Some genus can tolerate more shade and tolerate more water, while others are more finicky. And in fact, some of them are native to tropical and subtropical climates, and they would appreciate the shade and the humidity. Now back to you guys.
Awesome, thanks for the input, Chuck. So if you love succulents, definitely be sure to check out his channel. He has an amazing backyard garden that has succulents all over the place. And it's really awesome to see that much, and we're just barely getting started. But based off what he was saying, this one, as much as we love it, it's not gonna be as well suited for this small of a container. So we're not gonna wind up going with these ones, and our lid is going to be using this one instead. I wanted to break this up a little bit before I put it in the container. We don't want to put the whole entire thing in, so we're going to take a portion of it, and then we're going to put that smaller piece inside of here. one of the first things I'm going to be doing with the container for the succulent is I'm going to be adding a small layer of rocks at the bottom, just so if I happen to if I happen to give it too much water, it'll have somewhere to drain to. I'm really going to try to be careful not to put too much water into this, especially like Chuck said, just very sparingly. Succulents, one of the best ways to kill a succulent is to give it too much water. Now, I'm gonna be taking this succulent out, like I said, and breaking it apart. Right now it's really dry, so, I mean, well, it pretty much is always really dry. So that makes it easier to break it apart. And then once I do that completely, I will get a smaller piece from it. I'm just kind of massaging the root area, the ball of soil. And as you do that, it'll slowly break apart and it'll make it easier to work with. It did come with some soil, but I'm gonna need some more anyways because I'm gonna have to replant these somewhere else. So I'm gonna be mixing up a little bit more. What I'm gonna be doing for the substrate mix is I'm just taking regular potting soil, but I'm gonna be adding some gravel and some sand. And those are gonna help to just make sure it drains really well. This is some play sand that I've got from a hardware store. And then after getting the play sand, I have rinsed this. So this is just rinsed play sand. You can get it at pretty much any home improvement store.
I should probably stare at the camera. Yeah. It's easy when you're like leaning over to not stare at the camera, to like look down.
It's astonishingly easy to avoid eye contact with the camera. That's
Yeah.
why I'm providing one weird eye for you. Can you see that? Yeah. But now I'm over to the side.
It's pretty weird.